Hashrate is sponsored by TAO Stats. TAO Stats is the leading BitTensor explorer. You can buy, sell, and stake BitTensor on TAO Stats. TAO Stats can be found at taostats.io, and there's a link in the Hashrate show notes description. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashrate. My guest today is Tom Blears of Bitcast, Subnet93. Hello, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm not bad, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So, dude, we just had one of your commercials. So we are now participating in the Bitcast network. We're getting fancy up in here. We're getting sponsors and stuff. So, I've had sponsors on Hashrate before, but I had to go out and get them. But now a Subnet is providing sponsorship for this show. Very exciting.
Well, and actually, I think it's the first podcast to ever mine on Bitcast. So, yeah, you're the first. Well done.
Am I the first? So this will be we'll see. It kind of depends on when I mix it, but I will attempt to be the first. And I think I probably will be actually. So very, very cool. So you're basically the guy that runs Bitcast, and I know I heard about your idea. You guys reached out to me, and I kind of went, meh, not for me. And then then I started participating in it, and then I kind of had this moment where I was like, oh, this is way better than I thought it was. And now you're actually providing ads. You're actually fitting fully into, sort of the format of Hashrate, right? I don't have to sort of bend myself to you. You're now bending what you're doing to what I already naturally do as a video content producer. So we'll talk about that in a second, but why don't you just give us a quick overview of what Bitcast is and what you guys are doing for people who don't know?
Yeah, okay. So we are a BitTensor subnet that we use the incentives for content creation. Now, what that means is at the moment we're primarily on YouTube, and we specify in bullet point format what a video should talk about, and then creators can see that. They don't have to do big brand deals. They can just go interact with the brands through our briefs, make the best content they can do, and then AI collects the data from the videos and rewards the creators based on genuine engagement. So in a nutshell, that is what we do. So we're like the bridge between brands and creators, making everything as seamless as possible.
Yeah, because most things in BitTensor, right? It's mostly AI, right? So it's mostly to mine. You have to be kind of a brainiac, right? Like on most subnets, right? It's very much supply compute or supply training data, or it's all like gradients and stuff like that, right? But you sort of looked at you just looked at BitTensor and you said, well, this is just in general. It's a general incentivization alignment engine. So it doesn't have to be used for AI, right? Other people have made subnets which are mining Bitcoin, right? And you said, well, what is something that BitTensor needs? Well, it's complicated and there's a lot going on, right? In the subnets, it's a very deep topic. It needs people to produce media to explain all this stuff to the masses to help BitTensor get more and more adoption, right? Both in terms of the coin, but the products, more people excited about subnets. And you said, let's create an engine to motivate video content creators to create specific content, whether that be ads for a subnet like you just saw, or basically sort of like a instructional video on, what's going on, right? You come up with that. And that allows someone like me to create these videos. And I'm actually mining by creating videos that conform to your standards. And where does AI come into this? Well, AI checks my work, right? AI watches the video and says, oh, Mark did this right, or Mark didn't do this right. And if I did it right, now I'm eligible to receive TAO emissions and rewards. Did I get that correct?
No, spot on. I mean, end of the day, I think BitTensor is heavily aligned to AI, but it's an incentive mechanism, isn't it? And if no matter what your skills are, if you have skills and you have talent, I see BitTensor as a place that no matter what those skills are and talents are, you will find a home where you can provide that expertise. And essentially, we looked at it. We took content creation and saw that BitTensor it's amazing what's going on. but it's
Yes.
so complicated, and a lot of people know what's going on. So we're like, well, that's a problem in the ecosystem, so we set out to solve it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how BitTensor, because it is this incentivization alignment engine, it just boots up whatever it needs, right? Like you were incentivized to do this idea because you knew that a subnet that was sort of like an ad network slash instructional video creation network could be a very successful subnet, which means you would earn a lot of TAO, right? As a subnet owner, you said, "Oh, this is potentially a really good idea," and so the network incentivized you to figure that out because you saw a hole, a gap in something BitTensor needed to make itself bigger, and so you went and filled that gap, and then incentivized people like me to help you fill that gap by producing the actual video and content that you needed. So it's just really fascinating, right? So I love that dynamic, and I'm just sort of fascinated with like it needs arms and legs. Like BitTensor needed arms and legs, so it just summoned it into existence through the sort of Bitcoin like mechanisms by which it runs. Like really super fascinating evolution, right?
Yeah, I think it's amazing what it can do. So I mean, if you think about it, like, well, BitTensor is the only L1, major L1 without a marketing budget.
Yeah.
And naturally, we came up with the thought, well, hang on a minute, why don't we create a marketing subnet? And that dynamic of incentives just going around, people are on the hunt for other things that the BitTensor ecosystem needs. And everyone's incentivized to think like that and then incentivize whatever it is that the ecosystem needs. So it's, yeah, you're spot on. It's just natural incentives just playing out pretty much throughout the whole ecosystem, which is basically why it's unstoppable. If there's an incentive for it, then people are going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you said something really interesting. You're like most chains, right? Like, Avalanche or Solana or whatever, they've got marketing budgets like in the hundreds of millions, like some of them, right? And they're spending, they have spent over the last 5-6 years just gobs of cash marketing their chains and their projects and everything. And they're not really, it's a different dynamic than sort of this Bitcoin like emissions based subsidy, right? That's sort of the chain is paying people, right? If you come up with something useful, the chain pays people out of the new Bitcoins, in our case, TAO, sometimes rehypothecated as subnet tokens, but subnet tokens are actually just stake TAO, right? They're sort of moving around in terms of how much stake TAO, but it is just rehypothecated stake TAO, right? So the chain is emitting the compensation for instead of venture capitalists pouring money into something to market it, the chain is emitting compensation out to the people that are helping it, right? That are marketing it. So I'm just totally fast. It's a very different way of doing everything, right? And it's a very big. It's like taking Bitcoin's main lesson and generalizing it in multiple dimensions, including marketing. That's what I find really fascinating here. So
there was something I can't remember who said it recently to me, but it sort of like a light bulb went off in my head, and I've obviously been working in BitTensor for a few months now. But obviously, Bitcoin, you've got your hash rate and you get your Bitcoins. But within TAO, very similar dynamic. But TAO is used between all the different subnets to interact. Which, yes, when I realized that, I was like, oh, that's like basically Bitcoin on steroids. So it's the currency within the whole ecosystem, the whole massive brain that is BitTensor is all interacting and like paying for services between different subnets. And when I realized that, I was like, that is just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and because the subnet tokens are rehypothecated stake TAO, when you get right down to it, no matter what the subnets are doing, all of the value is always being driven back into TAO, the root core token. And that is a point that's missed by a lot of people. They don't quite get that dynamic is happening here. And that's very different. Because you stake TAO to make subnet tokens, you don't spend it, right? So like in Ethereum and Solana and other ecosystems, you spend the root token to buy other things. And then that token goes, I don't know, it goes to whoever, did the trade with you. And it's still in motion. Like people are still spending that, Ethereum or Solana or whatever. It's not sort of locked up in a staked mechanism, right? In BitTensor, the TAO is locked, right? Once the TAO is staked to create the subnet tokens, that TAO is not going anywhere. And so we're sort of amassing more and more and more staked TAO, right? And so there's less and less TAO available to trade and to spend out on the open market. And I think just a lot of people have not internalized that dynamic yet, and how all the value is being driven into the TAO token. And plus you have that Bitcoin, 21 million only coins dynamic at work here. And all these things are sort of intersecting, and we haven't really seen it go explosive yet, but the numbers and the way it's sort of constructed look to me like we will see, like that's going to create a chain reaction at some point. What do you think about all that?
I think you're spot on. I mean, we were talking the other week, weren't we? And I actually said to you, "Is like, is this right? How I feel that we're in sort of like the bubble before it just takes off and people start to realize what's going on." And I think you likened it to the sort of start of Ethereum and start of Bitcoin, where you were just like, "Is this actually what's happening?" Yeah. And I mean, we just run a brief on when will TAO hit top 10. Obviously, it's a speculative brief. We're not telling the creators what to say on it. But it does feel like we're at the start of something really special. It feels like it's a whole new asset class within crypto. And yeah, I mean, the tokens, like the alpha tokens themselves, they're sort of trading in this range and trending down a little bit. Obviously, APY is counteracting that, but at some point that's going to stop, and everything's going to start popping off. And I think it feels like we're kind of in that area now where that's going to start happening. But I think it's the fact that all the TAO tokens are not actually leaving, not moving around. You're just staking them. It just means there's less and less and less TAO available. And I think this is why. I mean, it's all this sort of stuff why all the institutional investors are coming in. It's a very, very complicated ecosystem, but smart money is moving in, and it's moving in fast.
That's what I've seen.
It's because they're realizing the key differences between BitTensor and a lot of the other assets available. It's extremely exciting.
Yeah, as we were talking before the show, I mean, I've actually gone and calculated from the emissions, if you buy subnet tokens, alpha tokens is, the other word for it, but they're the same thing. So if you buy subnet tokens in subnet 33 or subnet 93, which is the Bitcast subnet. So if I buy subnet 93 tokens, actually I'm going to go back to 33 because I actually know the numbers there better. So if I buy subnet 33 tokens, which is Ready AI, every single day, because of the way the chain emits tokens, I'm getting diluted 0.5%, right? That's how much the overall circulating supply expands on a daily basis. However, I'm also making roughly 80% APY. So if I simply hang on for a year, those two numbers will even out, right? It'll be like nothing happened in terms of, the value, my percentage ownership of the overall value. So, and yet, the value of the overall market cap of Subnet 33 at this moment, Ready AI, is 15 million, which is insanely low given that they're doing the exact same thing that Scale.ai is doing. And Scale.ai's valuation is now 28 billion with a B. So 15 million, 28 billion. You can argue how close is Ready AI to Scale AI. But that delta is just absurd, right? So I think we're in this sort of, it's just my own opinion, but I think that we're in this sort of magical moment where the value, people look back and be like, oh my God, why didn't I buy more subnets, right? Like, holy shit, that thing was 15 million for a year. That's crazy, right? And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. It's hard for money to move into the existing ecosystem. Like, you got to get a TAO wallet, you got to get some TAO, you got to learn how to stake, natively in TAO. And that's changing, of course. We got Sturdy doing things, we have Void doing things. but I think it's just I think that we'll look back on this moment as kind of like a magical little moment that, oh my God, how come nobody was paying more attention to that? Like we look back on early Bitcoin and early Ethereum, exactly the same dynamic. So yeah, you have something?
People just didn't get it straight away, did they? And I think
No.
that's the case with this. I think it's just not the norm within crypto how BitTensor works, and I think it's taken a little bit of time for people to cotton onto this.
Yep.
But like you said, if you bought Ethereum at $4, it dropped down to $1. You don't care now, do you?
Not really.
It doesn't matter. So I think that's kind of where we are. It feels that way.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Bitcast kind of specifically now. So, there's basically sort of two products at the moment. There's the ad product, which we'll talk about later, but let's talk about the briefs product. I've now produced 3 hash rate BitTensor briefs, as I call them, where I basically went to your site and I signed up with you. So I had to actually sign up with you, right? We went through a little process and you set me up with a miner, and we'll deal with that later, but let's just talk about the briefs. So once I do that and I'm sort of signed up with the network and you know about me, I can now go in and get these briefs, which sort of come up periodically. And I get like sort of a one sheet and it says something like, okay, the brief is on this, mention this fact, mention this fact, mention this fact, put this link into the show notes. And now you have complied with the request for the briefs. Where are these briefs coming from? Are you just coming up with them on your own, or is there a third-party entity buying space on the network from you for it? Where do these things come from?
Well, I mean, when we launched it, we're using BitTensor as our sandbox, and when we launched it, we were like, right, okay, well, let's come up with some briefs that we find interesting. So obviously, what is BitTensor? Yep. What is TAO? And then we've sort of gone along that route. But once we started demonstrating how it worked, and what our creators were able to, what value they were able to bring, Subnet started realizing, okay, this is a product that we're interested in. So we started selling it to subnets. So we sell the brief to subnets, and the way it works is I'll say, right, okay, this is the process, and what you need to do is basically make these bullet points and you make a supported information pack. And that's just making it extremely easy for creators to go, right, I understand what I need to talk about. There's a load of support information. I can go and do my own research as well around that. But yeah, so subnets have started buying up the slots. Obviously, we just announced today that we're doing one with TAO stats, which is ads slightly different. But yeah, we're sort of getting booked up now for a couple of months. And demand is starting to spike with all the subnets, to be honest.
Really? All the subnets are reaching out and saying we want to do ads with you guys?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because, from a brand perspective, if a brand wanted to get, let's say, 20 different creators to go and make videos, that is a massively time onerous process. So obviously you've got to do your outreach. You've got to negotiate rates with every single creator. It's all done through spreadsheets. You've got to send money and just trust that they're going to do the video. There's a hell of a lot of scammers out there. Yeah. So like that would take weeks to do that. And it also, you sort of fallen into those pitfalls where some creators have, we've got 200,000 subscribers, but they could have just bought them all. They could have bought a load of views on their videos, and you wouldn't know. So our solution basically gets rid of all those problems. So obviously we've got the creators set up as miners. So we've got, it's not just surface level YouTube data. We've got all the analytics from their channels. And then we can see what is genuine and what is not, what traffic is real, what is not. And it's not in the incentive. No creators aren't incentivized to go and fake that because they won't get rewarded for it. So we're basically making this trustless system which can be deployed in like 2 hours by a subnet. They can get reach that they would have typically taken them weeks and cost a lot more. So yeah, so basically, I used to be a content creator myself, on Instagram, so not YouTube, admittedly, but I knew from a creator point of view that dealing with all these brands was quite a hard thing to do, to go and find business and things like that. So we just sort of looked at all the problems and went, right, well, how do we make that way more slick And essentially, we realized that BitTensor was the place, and AI was the way to validate these videos.
That is fantastic, right? Because the other thing they'd have to do is they'd have to run around. They have to actually go watch all the videos to make sure their ad ran, right? Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if you just use AI to watch the videos and decide whether, the person hit their marks or not, right, as requested. So yeah, and I've actually, so my history is I ran a podcast network company with Jason Calacanis for about a year and a half called This Week In, and it was at scale. We had 30 shows. And we had a whole bunch of ads from a bunch of different people. And I've run my own podcast at various times. I mean, Hash Rate's sort of the latest thing I've done, but I've done several others before that where I've had to go out and get sponsors and, basically sign contracts with them, right? Negotiate. It's a pain from the content, from the content producer's point of view, it's a pain in the ass also. This is just so much easier. Like, now that I sort of see what's going on here, I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Everything is streamlined at every turn of this thing. And I can tell you, so now I've done 3 briefs, right? So one of them I did yesterday, so I'm not going to count that one, but I did 2 briefs before where they've been up for a little while. And my number, everybody's like, oh, how much do you make? And I was like, well, for me, and my YouTube numbers are not giant, right? So I'm on, your system is only integrated with YouTube. So my numbers are far larger on X. That's where most of my audience is. And I get like usually 30,000 or so, maybe 40,000 views per episode on X. The big episodes are like 250,000. Those are like breakout ones. JJ is usually the one, usually the guest on who has the breakout episodes. But on YouTube, I'm like maybe 1,000 views per show kind of thing. But even so, with the 2 briefs I did with you guys, I got like roughly 2 TAO per brief. So, round maybe 2.5 TAO, I'd say. So round it up, say it's like about $1,000 per brief at today's prices. Pretty good. And if TAO explodes, right? Like if TAO becomes worth, let's just say it becomes worth what Bitcoin is right now, right? Let's just say each TAO becomes worth 100,000. Well, holy shit, that's $250,000 that I made per, for each brief, right? And of course, that's sort of the crazy scenario, but not crazy given what's happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum and some other things. So, pretty interesting dynamic at work right there, right? So, do you have plans to expand beyond just YouTube? I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but where are you guys in terms of your thinking of, do you have plans to expand to X?
Yeah, X is next. We are just, there's so many different ways that we could do X, and obviously there's already there's a subnet, and obviously there's Kato who run Yappa, so that there is people incentivized on X. We've got some really cool ideas. I can't give you the details of them right now, but they're coming. But yeah, so we're going to be moving to X in the near future. We've got a couple of things that we want to box off before we do. I think the really exciting one is like the no-code miner, which basically means that creators can join with one click. And yeah, so once we've got that up and running, then we're ready to expand into X. And then after that, it's the same problem for creators on all these channels, right? So if they want to monetize, they need to do a lot of work to work with brands, and all of these different social media platforms have got different audiences that are going to be fit for different brands. So yeah, we're planning on expanding into each one. So X next, probably TikTok, then Instagram, and then we can branch beyond that if we want to. But essentially, we want this big network, this big spider web of content where brands can go, that is 2 hours of my work, stick it there, and then it just spider webs out across all of these networks. And I just think it's going to be so powerful, so valuable. And X next.
Yeah, that's magnificent. I can't wait till you're on X. I'll do very well on X.
Yes.
So I'm like, yes, come to the battlefield I win at, right? So YouTube is not my game, but there's enough activity. Thank God I had a YouTube channel up and running. I almost didn't, right? Because I almost was like, screw it, I'm just X. But I had too many requests. People were like, so I finally went, okay, all right, I'll do a YouTube channel. Got that up and running, and I'm actually really glad I did it. But and I'm very glad, I'm very glad I had it so that when you guys came along, I can actually participate, right? Without, because I wouldn't be able to if I was X only. And this is just great because this is one of the very few subnets where you don't have to be an AI brainiac to mine, right? You can just be a content producer. You can be an influencer, right? And be mining in BitTensor. And when you get up on TikTok, oh my God, that could be just a bonanza, right? All those TikTok video influencer people, that could be quite large.
Well, I mean, the way that TikTok works is so different as well, isn't it, to like YouTube and X? So you can do one video and it goes nowhere, but you can do a video that just goes completely viral.
Yeah.
And that's like extremely valuable. But we just need to find the right incentive mechanisms to make this all, sing from the same hymn sheet. But yeah, TikTok will be quite a fun one to do when we get around to it.
So when I do my videos, right, and I throw them up on YouTube, and like I said, I'm getting like 1,000 views on YouTube per whatever episode. I'm competing against all, once your AI determines that my brief met the requirements, I'm now eligible to receive TAO. But what determines how much of the TAO emissions, or I guess subnet emissions, actually subnet 93 emissions, are apportioned to me versus all the other people participating? I assume it's views, right? How are my views compared to everyone else? Is that correct?
So, I mean, it was. We've actually just released Bitcast version 2, which was a couple of weeks ago, which changed that. But, I mean, before it was dog eat dog. You get thrown into a pool and you're scored not on views, because we don't see views as a very good metric. It's not really... It's not a good indication of like good quality videos. It's not good quality, not a good indication of like attention. So we were using minutes watched, which is a much more, obviously, if like you say your channel is getting 1,000 views, but those 1,000 views could be and they are much higher quality, much more engaged views where people are watching your whole podcast. Whereas you can get the videos where they might get like 10,000 views, but people have jumped on and then jumped off again because they're just not interested. So that's a massive disparity of quality. So we stayed away from scoring on views. But yeah, so the old model was you get thrown into a pot. There's a pot of alpha at the top. You get thrown into the pot and you're scored. And whoever, based on what percentage you have, that's the percentage of the reward you get. Which was brilliant to start with. It's very BitTensor, like competition, like just natural competition. And yeah, it got us to where we are. But, as with the whole process that we've developed, it's all about looking at the problems and solving them. And we spoke to a lot of creators who are on the network and said, like, what do you like? What don't you like? And we've also released this agency model as well, which means that businesses can now build on top of Bitcast. But this whole competition aspect just meant that you can drop one video on like a Monday, and if no other videos drop on that day and you've got good numbers, you're going to take a huge chunk of that pie. But if you drop that exact same video and get the same engagement on a day where 3 other creators drop videos, you're not getting the same amount. You're not getting your just reward. So it made it really difficult for creators to sort of say, right, if I make a good video, I'm going to get X. Makes it really difficult for agencies to go and say, right, make me this video because I know you'll make X. It just made that whole thing really, really complicated. So what we've now done is we've released a different incentive model that was released a couple of weeks ago. And essentially it applies a calculation to your engagement. So you can go look at your YouTube engagement and go, right, there's the calculator. That's my engagement. And you can calculate what your emissions would be, which is much. I mean, one of the problems that we've had since we launched is getting creators in, because telling a creator, you'll make money, but we don't know how much, it's all based on competition, isn't, if you're not familiar with BitTensor, that's not really that appealing, especially in a world of scams, and it doesn't sound great. But if you can say to a creator, look, join the network and we'll give you this CPM, which is an industry-wide term, and you can give case studies on like, look, this video made this and this video made this, and it's consistent, that's way easier to get creators in. So yeah, we've basically switched up the model to sort of make it more consistent, more predictable, more understandable.
So it's a lot more. Yeah. So what is the CPM that you're targeting with this new system?
So it's I think it's around about $1,200, $1,300.
Yeah, that tracks with my numbers. So right, because I'm getting 1,000 views, and I've made about $1,000 per brief. So that actually feels about right. So yeah, amazing.
It's working.
Okay, it works. Which that's a great CPM, right? So I don't think it's gonna be like that way forever, but it is that way right now, which is amazing. And also, that CPM could actually be higher, right? Because if I just hang on to the subnet tokens, they could increase in value. I'm not saying that they will, not financial advice, but they could, right? So it's a kind of an interesting way to think about it also. So now, as we've seen with this episode, there's now ads running on long form content through your network. When someone comes to you and they say, I want to buy an ad, what is sort of if you're willing to share this, how much are they paying? And that revenue that you get, are you buying back your own subnet tokens with it? Are you just using it to pay the bills? Like, what's happening with that?
Yeah. So, we've got ads and we've got these dedicated briefs, which are like proper, like the ones that you've been doing up until this video.
Yeah.
So a dedicated brief where it's like you've got to talk about a certain topic, and it's that whole video is about this topic. So we have been selling those for 10 TAO. We obviously could sell them for more if we wanted to, but right now, like I said before, we're sort of using BitTensor as our sandbox, and we're trying new features out, and we're developing our systems. And essentially, we're selling them for 10 TAO each, and the way that we're now increasing revenue is basically increasing the number that we sell rather than increasing the price. Because our primary goal, like our first phase, is to make BitTensor more understood. So making that inaccessible to subnets and platforms, it doesn't align with what we're trying to achieve. So we've set a fixed price per dedicated brief. And then there's also going to be a fixed price or potentially a sort of subscription model on ads, which is a bit more of a rolling, because they're very, very different. Like you can get a dedicated brief made, and then you'd probably get a dedicated brief made every time you release a big update or you've got something that you want to talk about. And that stays on YouTube forever. And whenever someone wants to search like Ridges or like Ready AI, they'll find those videos. So that's just everlasting, brilliant content. But the ads is different. The ads is like, well, no, we want just constant awareness. We want awareness. So that's something that will just keep running, and they'll just keep sort of either as a subscription or like a monthly fee. We've just launched ads today. So we are working with TAO Stats, and we are testing our new latest release. And massive shout out to Mog and the team. They were like, right, okay, let's do this. We're really keen to see how this works, and they're working.
Yeah, Mog is the guy behind TAO Stats, for those who don't know. So
yes, yeah, so they're very different revenue models, but essentially they're sort of going to be working in tandem, and our creators are always asking us for more and more content. So obviously, just by giving new ways and more frequent ways for them to monetize their content, they're obviously extremely happy about that.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I think so 10 TAO to get a brief, and then to get an ad. Did you reveal a price for the ads or no?
We've not decided yet. No.
Okay.
We're going to, the same as when we launched the subnet, we're going to sort of demonstrate the power. We're going to look at the metrics that we're pulling from it, and then we can sort of find like a market value for it. The way that we did the briefs at the beginning is we incremented them up until we hit 10 TAO, and we're like, that's just an easy to understand number. It's accessible. And we'll probably do something similar with the ads. But it's the proof's in the pudding. Until we get that system nailed on and it's not being exploited, we can't really just be pumping it out, like making people pay sort of market rate for it just yet.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I mean, I think this has the opportunity. I think this has the potential to scale up and actually be pretty big. right? Because it just sort of eliminates all these inefficiencies, both in terms of the advertiser and the content creator. I love this system. I think this system is fantastic. It's far easier for me, and I love getting more TAO, right? I love getting more subnet tokens. So it aligns like perfectly with what basically what I'm chasing. So, my God, this could actually be rather large, and the thing that's really crazy about it is that it's basically this massively subsidized ad network that you basically if TAO goes the way we all think it's going to go, and I think we're all pretty bullish on it, and sort of has a Ethereum like or Bitcoin like arc. Oh my God, this thing is throwing off advertising subsidies like crazy in a way that I think a lot of the centralized ad networks, they just can't compete. Like, this solves so many problems at once. And it's just, I just feel like I remember when I think it was you I first talked to. Was it you? It was you. Okay. So
Yeah.
we were talking at X, and I remember you telling me about this, and I was like, man, this sounds like a dumb idea. And I'm sorry. That was,
No,
I apologize. I was wrong. I was totally wrong, but that was my initial reaction. Right. And I thought that about Bitcoin at first too, just to put it, just to put it in perspective. Right. So, but I was kind of like, it felt like a misapplication of BitTensor. It felt like square peg, round hole. But now that I see it, and now that I understand it, now that I'm participating in it and feeling it in my bones, I'm like, oh my God, this is incredibly BitTensor. It really does. It really does work incredibly well. So how did you think of this? What made you sort of come up with this? Where did this come? And what were you doing before you decided to do this? Who were you?
So, well, I mean, there's two sides to Bitcast. There's myself and my brother Will. So as I sort of alluded to before, I mean, I've worked in finance at TradFi for, 15 years within the UK pension space, just delivering software. And very successfully, by the way. I'm underselling myself a little bit there. So I was working in TradFi, and then my brother, Will, he was working in sort of big banks doing a lot of development side of things. So I was sort of more development. I was more like project leading and software, sort of meeting clients' needs. He was developing, and he moved over to Tensora about a year ago, and was their first miner. And he was just like telling me all about BitTensor and how amazing it was, and I was like, I don't understand that. Like, that's crazy. What are you on about? For about 3 months. And then he just carried on mining, and he was just talking to me like, I want to set up a subnet. And we got chatting, and as I sort of mentioned earlier, I actually was a content creator at one point as well on Instagram. And I was like, well, like, that was a pain in the ass trying to find clients to work with. I'd often get approached by clients, and they'll waste loads of my time and the deal didn't come through. And I was just like, well, that'd be something I know about, and I know the problems in it, and that could work. And he sort of took it away, and he was like, this actually could work. This isn't what I was thinking. I was thinking something along the lines of AI and using all his like brilliant coding experience. It was like, this is a totally different and novel way of using BitTensor, but it would work. And that's so I mean, from that point, which was I'd probably say that was sort of the end of February. We launched in April, so we got it all written. I mean, it was a tough few months, and there was bugs when we launched, but we got it launched. I mean, we made our website in 2 weeks. We're getting it redone at the moment. But we just thought, like, well, let's just hammer this. Let's go for it, and see how it goes. And funnily enough, like you said, when I told you the idea, you thought it was not a good idea. That was pretty much every response we got. So we spoke to subnet incubators and investors to like pay for our subnet slot, and we were getting, everyone's like, no, that's not AI. What are you talking about?
It feels right, because it's not AI. And that was probably when I'm honest with myself, that was probably my biggest objection. But I mean, to be fair, also I remember when Travis Kalanick, who's also an old friend who founded Uber, he went up to San Francisco. I was down here in LA working with Jason on something else. And I remember hearing him talk about what he was doing next, this Uber thing. And it was basically like a taxi thing, right? And what was hot at the time was Google and Twitter and, purely digital products and Facebook, right? And LinkedIn. And, and here was Travis and he's like, ooh, there's like cars and like drivers and things in the real world and gasoline and laws and medallions. Like it just feels icky and gooey. Doesn't feel like something. It feels like you're going to get bogged down in like atoms. Like it feels bad, right? Turns out Travis was a genius, right? And say he got something very, very right that everyone else missed. I think your idea's got similar characteristics where because it is sort of contrarian, even within the BitTensor, universe, it's actually genius, right? Because you understand this world of advertising, right? And content creation and where the pain points are, as do I. And and so it's amazing that I missed it, but I did. But once I guess I had to feel it in my bones a little bit more. That was kind of, that's what did it for me. Like actually using it and doing it, I was like, oh, this is way more interesting than I thought it was. So yeah.
Well, the best way to look at Bitcast, I suppose, is like a marketing, like a content creator marketing agency. The only thing is, like, every agency out there takes a huge cut, and their processes are massively manual. Whereas we're just basically going, right, what are the problems? How do we use AI to take that problem away? And then that just makes you have this really streamlined process that can scale really quickly. And like I said, 2 hours to write a brief. Right now, we've got about 25 creators and we've got about 500,000, between 400 and 500,000 subscribers across our creators right now. That's still whilst we're having this problem where you've got to go and set up a miner. Like open no code miner, that's going to change massively straight away.
When you say 400 to 500,000, what is that, like the number of eyeballs kind of in the network?
So that's the subscriber count on all of our creators combined. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're growing quite quickly. Yeah.
So that's quite, and that's amazing. And you have 25 creators, of which I'm one. And just to be clear, you guys had to set me up specially. You had to sort of hand crank my onboarding because I didn't have a miner. And I'm not, that stuff, I actually don't know how to set that up. I could probably figure it out given enough time, but whatever. It's not something I'm inclined to do. So you guys came along and you said, okay, we'll set you up with a miner. We know how to do that. And so you were very kindly helped me out and sort of hand crank my onboarding. But in the near future, you're going to have that process automated. And so you won't have to sort of hand crank the onboarding of people. It'll be fully automated. Just sign up, boom, you're up and running. Right, which will be a major step forward. So I'm sorry. Please continue with your thought.
No, that's it. Yeah. So I mean, once we get this no code miner set up, which is weeks away now, that was like our main. It's a main sticking point for us to get creators on, and we just need to resolve that. And I think at the end of the day, the way that this scales properly is obviously we win BitTensor right now. Probably in the short term, our biggest customers are not going to be BitTensor subnets. They're going to be ecosystems outside of BitTensor. Where they're like, right, we've seen what you did with BitTensor, right? We want you to do this with our chain. So we're building our creators up like that, and we're going to ramp that up by getting loads of creators to this no code miner, and then we're going to start branching out into that. And I think the whole agency thing is we're with this creator agency, we've got this really easy streamlined process where you get massive reach with very, very little interaction. And also it's because it's run by AI, it's language doesn't matter. Like we currently have got 5 different languages mining on it. Now for a creator agency to do that, like you need translators.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, so like, and that literally, we didn't plan that. We're just like, oh, that's cool.
Just we're multilingual out of the box
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we use
of
AI.
course, yeah. So obviously, I have to watch those videos on auto dub,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's brilliant. So I think we've got French, German, obviously English, Spanish, and Hindi.
Oh my God. So yeah, so the AI goes and checks the videos to make sure they're compliant with the brief, translating the language if necessary in its head on the go because it's AI. That
Yeah, it's great.
that is just absurd.
Yeah, it's
That's
brilliant.
absurdly good. So yeah, it's every this whole project of Bitcast, like in so many little facets and in so many little details, it's reducing these inefficiencies that are kind of amazing in so many. Like I'm actually becoming more and more bullish on what you're doing. Even the more we talk in this podcast. So I'm
Well, you're earning Bitcast Alpha right now, so you're all good.
Yeah, I'm not selling any of it. I think it's great. So yeah, I'm just collecting, and that's it. Yeah, I think, and so it's really interesting that you think that the biggest growth vector for you isn't even other BitTensor subnets wanting to advertise BitTensor, but actually other chains and other, I guess, crypto projects wanting. And so those people will come to you and you'll say, great, you will earn on the BitTensor network. So you'll have to get a BitTensor wallet to collect your earnings, right? But you on day one, you'll start collecting your earnings in Subnet 33 tokens. That's how it will work for these other people on other chains, right?
So when I meant customers, I meant like people who pay for briefs. So
Right.
we're building out our creators.
Oh,
So
I
it's
see.
we've got creators right now. We've got quite a good mix of creators now. We've got a lot of BitTensor focused ones because obviously they were the natural ones to get in initially.
Yeah.
And this is cool. We've now got creators coming in from different ecosystems, and what I have loved with working with these, because I've got quite a good relationship with every creator. Obviously, it's like I said, it's very manual getting people in, and there's a lot of trust to go and right. Okay, I'm going to set up a miner, and okay, I see what you're doing. So the miners that we've got in from other chains, so they don't typically do BitTensor content. They're now mining on BitTensor, and then they're actually going, whoa, hang on, I get what's going on in BitTensor. And then they'll also start talking about all the subnet briefs that we start bringing out, which are educational content. And the transition that you are watching on YouTube as they're doing this is brilliant, because you're seeing creators go, I am now a BitTensor maxi. This is the biggest play. This is totally different. I didn't get it at first. And it's just like, we're TAO pilling the YouTubers to go out and TAO pill, and it's brilliant to watch.
Sorry, froze up for a second there. That was on my end. That was on my end. Sorry about that. I knocked a wire knocked out. Yeah, but oh my God, the YouTubers are TAO pilling themselves while they're TAO pilling others.
On live streams and on live videos, it's brilliant. It's great.
That is awesome. And yeah, it is kind of like that. So you're just watching like the lights go on in their eyes. They're going, oh, that's what this is. It's like early Bitcoin, early Ethereum. And that's the way I feel too. It's like I was there Gandalf 3,000 years ago, right? Like in 2013 for Bitcoin. That's when I wrote my first Bitcoin book. I got Bitcoin pilled, orange pilled in 2013, and then I was in the Ethereum ICO, right? So I interviewed Vitalik on a podcast like 3 weeks before. Yeah, it was crazy, right? That's how I found out about the Ethereum ICO, because Vitalik told me directly, right? So but once you understood what was going on in those two universes, like it was really, I went and explained to my old sort of, regular startup and venture backed world, compadres of what was going on in this new world. Right. And they were all like, that's all scams. That's bullshit. It's a Ponzi. It's this, it's that, just wouldn't consider it. Right. And of course, now here in the future, they're all like, God damn it. Why didn't I put more money in? Right. Or put any money in. Right, into Bitcoin and Ethereum and those early things, and every molecule in my body is screaming that BitTensor and TAO is that yet again. And these molecules did not scream like this when I saw Solana. Like I knew it was a thing, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same sort of magnitude of thing, right? And I feel like the uniqueness of it has set it apart. I feel the way in which it was born, like it was born healthy, right? Like Const doesn't have like 30% of the supply, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Solana guys, like it's something like 50% of it is all VCs and early contributors and advisors, and it was born dirty, and like it Solana works great, and there's some good things to Solana, but it's not the same as Bitcoin or even Ethereum, right? But BitTensor, like the distribution of it, like nobody owns more than I think 1% of it, right? Like Satoshi, even with Bitcoin, which was born very well, Satoshi owns I think 5% or something like that. It's because he owns like 1 million coins, I think, of the 21 million, which is roughly 4 or 5%. So even Bitcoin was born dirtier, if you will, than BitTensor, right?
That's a quote in itself, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, pretty amazing, right? So, well, goddamn, dude, I think you're onto something here. I think this could be kind of a big deal. So, all right. So have we covered, is there anything I should have covered that we haven't covered in this so far?
No, I don't think so. No, not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, this has been super fun. So thank you so much for coming on and explaining your universe in detail to this audience. And any of you video creators out there, you got to check this out. Of course, I hope you don't, because I want to keep earning more TAO. But I have a feeling many of you will anyway, and I'll just have to outcompete you. That's all.
You'll do it. Don't worry.
Just wait till X gets up and running. That's right, motherfuckers. They'll show you.
So, soon.
I look forward to the day. All right, Tom. This has been Hash Rate. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and we'll see you all next time.